Well, I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable. Welcome to part 3 of the evidential research in relation to Elon Musk, his link to the Cern Hadron Collider, international government fraud and the cell towers, and potentially a sinister plan against humanity and creation itself. Please do not fear, because I honestly believe that if we all unite over this evidence, which is clearly exposing the system that has facilitated most of the world's problems, then I honestly believe that we can resolve this in the right way. Now, in the last video, we looked at connections from Elon Musk to my sister's husband's family through an aerospace company, and I showed connections to Stephen Hawkins from Elon Musk, and therefore tying into the CERN Hadron Collider, which is very important in relation to this. All of the evidence acquired from the last 3 years clearly converges on CERN and other similar facilities. So it's very important to them, whatever they plan to do with it. And at the moment, all of the evidence suggests there was a failed attempt to create a point of singularity or a black hole in 2012, and that they're trying to do that again. And this could explain where all of, or a lot of the money is being funneled in relation to this international government fraud. Now, they've panicked because as I was releasing the evidence in the last couple of weeks or so ago, in relation to a potential apocalyptic deception by them and this fraud, Catherine Fitz came out and admitted that $21 trillion, and it'll be at least that, had been funneled from the public into a tunnel system for the rich and famous in the event of a doomsday situation. But I do suspect that that is part of the deception and them trying to maintain the control over all of those people involved in this, when really the deception will be against everybody. Everybody's going to be victimized in this. I honestly believe that. And that is why we cannot afford, nobody can afford to take the risk of me being wrong in this, because the evidence really is overwhelming. So we all do need to unite over this. And we got to some Mason companies that we were looking at, and those Mason companies connect through to another Mason company, and then to Bournemouth and District Cancer Foundation, to Bournemouth and Boscombe Athletic Community Football Club, through from Jeffrey Mostyn to AFC Bournemouth. And AFC Bournemouth we're going to come to in a minute. Within the Bournemouth Athletic Club, you can see Stephen Michael Sly. Well, I'd already recognised this name from previous research and the links made, because he connects via Ocean 53 to 55 Management Company Limited, a real estate company, on Christchurch Road, which is the same road that Exbourne Manor is based, okay? The company I was removed from for refusing to file forged bank documents, and that removal was initiated by Deborah Fleming, one of the Fleming family. And through that company, within it, you can see you have Initiative Property Management. Now, that's an important company because that appears to have been what the police used as a cover-up investigation. And I'm going to show you some evidence to support that claim. Now, I've shown these before. So these are news reports from Daily Echo, which is a centralised media company, everybody. So everything is centralised. I can't emphasise this enough. So all supermarkets go back to the same companies, hidden, okay, that are linked to the fraud. All media companies, all solicitors, all insurance companies, all centralised, okay, to provide the illusion of choice for you, but it's not really there. It's the same with democracy. Democracy is non-existent because they actually own the companies involved in counting the votes as part of this system of fraud. So it's all deception. Everything that you've ever led to believe is a deception because of this fraud, okay? As soon as we remove this fraud, it brings back accountability, liability, truth, transparency, trust, along with a transparent financial system for local, national and international governance. Anyway, the Daily Echo goes back to a company called NewsQuest, which is quite an old company, actually. It goes back quite a way. It's got a fraudulent entity company, so they control the information as part of the fraud, because remember, it's worth trillions. However, there was an article on the 21st of September 2023, Initiative Property Management sparks economic crime investigation. This was after, okay, Dorset police had tried filing my crime as no further action, even though the evidence was irrefutable, even though they had confirmed they had identified fraud. But as I continued my inquiries, they realised I was getting to the real crux of the problem, so then they refused to acknowledge that fraud. They then inadvertently said they sent 2 emails inadvertently, confirming they were allowing the banks to produce forged bank documents and for those documents to be used in circulation, a very serious crime. So I knew the police were involved. They also leaked information to the prime suspects I had already named, Deborah and John Fleming. I know that because of an email that I secured that was sent by John Fleming, which had information on it that only Dorset police would have known. And I'd already sent Dorset police an email naming them as prime suspects. Anyway, we have this investigation, 21st of September 2023. You can see here, Initiative Property Management based in Branksome is under investigation for fraud by the police. Now, Branksome, it's interesting, it says that that's in Poole, because my wife's father, as I was releasing information in relation to a Masonic hall there, he claimed that he plays squash with people at that hall. Now it all makes sense why. Now, after that article, and you can see here, just to confirm, zoomed in a bit here, 21st of September, and that is 2023. But of course, you can search. If you search Daily Echo Initiative Property Management Limited, you'll be able to find all these articles. Now, this went to Parliament because Connor Burns, the MP here for Bournemouth, got involved, and they were trying to minimise, the international element of this fraud that they were all complicit to. So they tried focusing in on this company to make it appear as though they were investigating it, but it was all a cover-up. I'm going to explain why in a minute. And Connor Burns refused to correspond with me, even though I had very clear evidence, that this company, Initiative Property Management Limited, linked very quickly to Export Manor Freehold Limited. They all refused to acknowledge it and ignored me. Even my own MP for the area, Tobias Elwood, where I lived on the Bournemouth East Overcliff, and both of those MPs have since resigned. But this is showing that they were trying to have discussions in Parliament. I can imagine what some of those discussions were, because most of the MPs are involved in this. And this is the article just zoomed in, 24th of October 2023. And by the way, Tobias Elwood and Connor Burns also linked separately through to the international government fraud on their own records as well. So you can see that they were putting some effort into this, but refusing to look at the real issue, clearly trying to cover it up. And this now confirms it, because there was another article published on the 27th of October 2023, almost 5 weeks later, and it says that officers from Dorset Police were seen searching the offices for Initiative Property Management based in Branksome Business Park last week. Well, that means they publicised an investigation, didn't search it for a month, and then searched it. You never do that within the police. That was clearly an opportunity for them to alter, conceal or destroy evidence in relation to the larger issue of international government fraud linking into child trafficking. And as the evidence has continued to be exposed, huge things have been happening. The P. Diddy scandal's a big one. So that would have undoubtedly been an investigation to cover up and destroy the evidence in relation to the very serious crimes in children linking in to P. Diddy and the scandals there. There's been multiple fires. There was an explosion at JP Morgan in America, a fire at BAE Systems, a fire at a company that after I'd exposed the evidence of the adrenochrome, the blood taken from children. That fire then researched back into the same companies to David Icke, and back into the Russian company that we looked at, or we're going to be looking at, can't remember if we've gone past it, Hackloit Company. And then when I then did a second police report in relation to that new evidence through that fire, where the fire occurred, they removed my whole YouTube channel. So you can see that this is very clearly the cause of all of the world's problems. It really is, because it facilitates international fraud, international child trafficking, international conflicts, terrorism, drug trafficking, you name it. So we had this article, so that was clearly them trying to cover up the investigation, but also make it appear as though they were doing something where they were panicking, 27th of October. And then another article came out, can't remember what date this was, too blurry, but they sent somebody in claiming there was millions of pounds now in relation to this fraud. So as I'm continuing to expose, they are trying to make it seem bigger than it is. But they've ended up discontinuing it all actually this year. They've released 2 people they supposedly arrested without charge. But this person they brought in actually links to JP Morgan, who's one of the main companies in the fraud, into the international government fraud as well. So it was a complete attempt by them to cover it up. So remember, we had the connection to AFC Bournemouth that we looked at a minute ago. Now, Anthony Roberts worked for AFC Bournemouth. He was the acting chairman. He had pictures of Switzerland on his Facebook page and then removed them hastily as he realised I was starting to expose the connections to Cern and the Hadron Collider and the United Nations and all these other organisations based in Switzerland there. And he colluded in a live stream with somebody who has at least 3 names that I've now confirmed. The name he was using in the live stream where they were tag teaming against me trying to undermine the evidence was Reynard Wilson. But somebody very kindly found out he had this name of Colin Suderman. And these are screenshots taken from Wikipedia, not Wikipedia, LinkedIn, which is a business site. And although you can't read it very well here, there's connections to him to military, research and development, directed energy, threat through cell towers, also through to the vaccines. And he's connected to CYM Limited, which I think I've got a clearer image here. Yeah, this is it. You can see it a little bit better here. So he was a technical sales representative for CYM Limited. You can just about see that there. And then further down, you can see he was a counter-intelligence officer, software developer. And CYM linked to a document that I acquired earlier on this document here. And all of this has been publicised elsewhere. Okay, so there's a lot of other videos and evidence and lots of Cern, a series of videos in relation to Cern by itself with the documents. And I'm going to be doing part 2 of that document soon because that shows the very important relevance in relation to all of this with Jimmy Savile. And on this document here, you can see CYM Limited. And from the research of CYM Limited, it went back to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, ended up with a company called Every Child. And that was on a document in relation to adrenochrome, the blood taken from tortured children. So remember, this is someone colluding with Anthony Roberts from Exmoor Manor, who my sister's husband is trying to, by attacking me, defending the system that is linked to the abuse, torture and murder of children and what looks like a very sinister plan against humanity. Now, these people may not have realised what they were part of, but now they do. So they really do need to unite. No matter what it is they've signed up to with the Freemasons, we need all of the Freemasons to come forward because you're all going to be targeted, everybody. That's what all of the evidence suggests. Now, some of you may have seen the police report that I submitted in relation to my niece, Gracie Timms. I did that because Gracie was, in my mind, and I remember I used to assess the threat of risk and harm in the police around children as well, was subjecting her child to potential risks because of all of these connections around her, including my wife's family. And now, of course, the connections to her father, who, instead of doing the right thing, was targeting me. So I submitted a police report. Well, her boyfriend and father of the child is Lewis Collins. And Lewis Collins, his mother is Maria Whitlock, or Maria Newton Whitlock on the Facebook page here. I'm just showing you this information to show how closely this appears to be connected. Okay, and I'll let you make your mind up whether this is the same Maria or not. You can draw your own conclusions. On the left, searching Maria Whitlock, Bournemouth comes up with this entry, and you can verify all of this. And Maria Whitlock linking to West Wind Air Bearings. There's some other connections here, Bournemouth University. Well, when you search on Company's House, West Wind Air Bearings, here's the overview of the company. I'll actually put it twice. On its incorporation document, it has National Westminster Bank PLC, which is a criminal fraudulent entity company. In fact, I need to submit another police report in relation to them requesting or suggesting I need to pay more on my mortgage, but they're criminal. So they can't do anything legally because they're fraudulently registered. But within West Wing, we have Christopher Roberts. And I think I put that just in case there's a connection to Anthony Roberts from Exmoor Manor. But within the company also have Stephen Webb. And Stephen Webb links to Oxford Instruments Industrial Products Limited. I've just put that because that was the first one I came across. And that company is obviously an Oxford company. And Ghislaine and Robert Maxwell were very prominent in Oxford. In fact, Ghislaine was a director for Oxford Football Club, and the football clubs are massively relevant in all of this because vast sums of money can be laundered from the masses through them, and they cover it as the football players, etc. We've all wondered, haven't we, how football players get paid so much. That'll probably be an element of it. And you can see the company name changes. The last time it changed its name, you can see, was in January 2011, the year that Jimmy Savile supposedly died. It's very likely connected. Within that company, West Wind, so we're just going back within West Wind, okay, we're not far away. Alan Cook links to the Society of British Aerospace Companies, exactly the same company that was linked to Richard Timms' family's company. And what this gives the ability for is to launder taxpayers' contributions through illegal weapons contracts through the government, and then filter that money down through to people connected to the Freemasons. And quite often they'll put it into a tangible asset such as a flash car or a boat or a yacht or something like that. And this is one of their payment systems. And a lot of people would be enticed into it for that reason, not realising that actually they're part of their own demise in all of this. It's really quite ironic, isn't it? Not only their demise, but their children and their grandchildren. And yet they're all targeting me, someone who's trying to save them all. As we go further down the document, oh no, I think that's it. Right, we're going to go back to the Elon Musk document. There's more I'm going to add to this at another date, and we'll come back to it. Also, the connections to my family in Kent are quite mind-boggling when you come in from my father's accountant and my mum's boss. And I'm going to show that in a separate evidence. And this explains why, or it appears why my mum has completely turned on me and saying I'm delusional and require immediate medical care. Well, that's unforgivable in my mind for a mum to say that about her son. And in fact, I don't think a mother would say that about their son, if you know what I'm saying. Everyone's had the choice to do the right thing. This is clearly evidence that can be verified and corroborated. You do not say that about your son when you're linked to it via your boss. Right, let's go to the Musk document. So we were looking at the Airbus company, wasn't we? Here we go. Yeah, we got to this point. Okay, so within the Airbus company, Peter Main when was he? Okay, so he was appointed in 1991 or before 1991. Okay, and resigned in 1992. These are key times, as we've said before. You had the World Wide Web created in 1989 for Cern, the Hadron Collider, or for Cern. But then you had the Gulf War in 1990, ended in 1991, Terminator 2 Judgment Day 1991, and 1992 was when the company sales register started to become electronic. And talking of CERN, the Hadron Collider, that director links to Atlas International Limited. And you can see they were appointed in 1995 when the Hackler International Advisory Company was created, and resigned in 1999, which I think is when Vladimir Putin became either the vice or president of Russia, and he is implicated in this. The Russian government's implicated in this. So Atlas International has an address that features in the Ford 55 Baker Street, and it was created in 1995, the same year as the Hackler International Advisory Company, and it's a criminal company, Swifting Corporations and Jordan's and Son, fraudulent criminal company. And it's important because Atlas, was an organisation involved in discovering the Higgs boson or God particle at CERN in 2012. Here's some articles just to confirm it. And within part of the research here, you can see it talks about Atlas. And at the bottom, this was why I showed this, because at the bottom, you can see the CEO, Fabiola Gianotti. Look when she was appointed, 2016, as the CEO. That is when the satanic, that's the same year the satanic ritual supposedly took place at CERN. This company, Craig Moore Dairy 2 LLP, when you research that, it goes straight back to the Flemings, to the same address that they used for ISIS companies as well. I'm going to come to ISIS, I think, in a minute. So that's important. Interestingly, I haven't shown it on here, but I've shown it on the Cern research. On the Cern document, the research regarding Fabiola actually says on there she's had to make a lot of sacrifices. I mean, they're literally telling us, because obviously this is a lot of this is about sacrifices, isn't it? But Atlas also connects to the. I'm going to skip the page now. Let's go back. Where is it? Sorry. Sometimes that happens. It moves the screen. I will get there any minute. I don't want to have to start this again, so you're just going to have to bear with me. Gives you a break from my voice. Here we are. Now, Atlas, okay, is also linked to nuclear weapons because the Atlas rocket and the Atlas company was actually involved in the first intercontinental ballistic missile. Now, what this and a lot of the other evidence I've acquired absolutely tells us now that the supposed threat of nuclear war has always been a deception. It's always been a collaborative deception in relation to CERN. We now know that because I've got the connections through to the leaders around the world that we're being led to believe have been at risk of conflict when in fact they're linked to the Flemings and the same international fraud. And if you think about it, because it's linked to the taxation system, they've all gained from it. It'd be worth trillions and trillions of pounds, obviously, around the world. So they're all gaining from it and able to funnel it all through to whatever collective agenda they may have. That's very clearly now been the case. And this allows the perfect cover because you've got Atlas linking to both. So anyone that was to be finding Atlas connections may very well go into the realms of it's linking into a nuclear threat. This explains why people that appear to have been working with the Flemings or people from Exbourne Manor actually came in and infiltrated me, saying all of the right things, and then tried to make me believe in an organisation called Atlas Holdings Limited, and they created this quite a big professional-looking article as part of the deception in relation to missing nuclear weapons in the 1980s. So this was deliberately staged to make me believe, and it did for a while, it did work for a while, and to divert away from CERN, I suspect. And within the Airbus company on the left, Roger Wood connects to Securitas. I've just put that because that then links to Group 4 Security via some name changes, and that therefore connects to the Chief Constable for the Metropolitan Police, Sir Paul Condon, who was also linked to BAE Systems, the largest defence contractor. And as I've said, you know, a lot of these contracts won't even be real. They provide the illusion of a risk of conflict to make you believe that and make you feel justified in paying more money into the government, and then they defraud you. That's very clearly what they've been doing. Trillions of pounds, everybody. Then we hit Institute of Advanced Motorists. That generally relates to the police and emergency drivers. So you're going to have a Freemason connection. If I was to go in through that, I'm no doubt I'll find it, but I haven't got time at the moment. You then have Automobile Association Insurance Services, and that was started in 1989 when the World Wide Web was created, and it's a criminal company, Jordans and Sons and Swifting Corporations Limited. Same director links to Automobile Association Insurance Services Holdings Limited. Okay, now the reason I'm showing this is, like everything else, as I've mentioned, the insurance company is all centralised as part of this fraud. So that gives them a constant flow of funding for their international satanic deception. Okay, and a lot of it appears to be being funneled into this very sinister plan. And of course, they would have paid people off along the way. But a lot of the key players, they appear to be deliberately positioning them in modest properties with modest vehicles, etc. Laura Nina is a key example of this, and she actually made a point of saying, you know, she's not affluent or anything. Well, they're doing that deliberately because obviously it doesn't draw attention to vast amounts of money. So the insurance provides this constant flow of funding for their satanic agenda. And of course, they can just increase the costs if they need more money. And this is why people are paying way more than they ever needed to for insurance, because it's all part of this criminal system. So you can't pay it anymore, everybody, because you're funding your own demise, according to this evidence, and the suffering and torture of children. Same director links to Centrica PLC, big company. Started in 1995, same year as the Hacklowitt International Advisory Company. It's criminal. Okay, it's Exmoor, same company as Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, Jordans and Sons and Swifting Corporations. British Gas Services Limited. Now, I've found British Gas throughout the research, but here's another one to confirm it. Because what they do, you see, is they have shell companies and they can just move the money. If some of them may be legitimate, they just move the money into an illegitimate one. And this was, again, incorporated in 1995. And this is linked to Ledgerbus, which then links to Max Clifford into the international child trafficking. And a lot of the utilities, in particular the water companies, appear to be centralised to the Ledgerbus connection. But it all does get centralised even more to a point once you research it all. Now, 1995, I've mentioned the Hacklowitt International Advisory Company. Well, let's look at that. This is a very important company, the Hacklowitt International Advisory Board, and it was started in 1995, as I've said. And this will be as part of their plans leading up to the World Trade Center disaster. That's now very clear with this, because you had this in 1995. You had 1999 was the 1995 was this company. 1997 was when not only did Princess Diana supposedly die, but within 2 months, the leader of the Church of Satan, within 2 weeks of Princess Diana dying, you had the movie come out called The Event Horizon, which is all very relative because that relates to black holes and what we're talking about here with the Cern Hadron Collider. So it's all connected. And I do suspect around that time is when you very likely had an infiltration of the Church of Satan. And it looks like they've done that, because if they blame this all on a satanic group, which I'm used to saying it is satanic, because at the moment that it obviously there's that connection, but there are a lot of Egyptian references in all of this. In fact, we're going to look at one very soon. So I suspect there was an Egyptian infiltration of the satanic church around that time, because they then re-established the Church of England, the Church of Satan in 1999, 2 years later, and this is when Vladimir Putin, as I've said, became the president of Russia, and in 2001 is when they positioned a new high priest of the Church of Satan, Peter Gilmore, who for initial research suggests is linked to royal family companies, which I've got to do some more work around that. So you can see how this all ties in, and obviously Princess Diana was linked to Dodi Fayed and Mohammed Al Fayed, and of course there's an Egyptian connection there. And the research from Harrods links immediately to the same name on a company document, Mavis June Latter, to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. And there's loads and loads of fraud throughout the research of Harrods. In fact, pretty much every element that I looked at of that appeared to be linked to this fraud and was criminal organisations. So anyway, this International Advisory Board company, Hacklowitt Company, it dissolved in 2024 in August after I exposed it. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, it's just the economic struggling. Well, it's not. This company has survived 2008. It's survived massive economic crashes, and suddenly it's dissolving. And remember, since I've been exposing this, over a fifth of all companies on Companies House have dissolved, and you'll be talking a lot more also dissolving. And look when they changed their name. Okay, so started in 1995, changed the name for the first time in 2004, and then they changed it on the 16th of July 2012. Remember, CERN Hadron Collider discovered the Higgs boson or God particle on the 4th of July 2012. And on the incorporation document, one of the last, it's page 7 actually, you can see royal connections. So you've got at the top there, the President of East European Trade Council, the President of Hellenic League? Anglo-Hellenic League, Royal Geographical Society, the British Heart Foundation, and this is important, the Southampton University, because Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal from Export Manor Freehold Limited for refusing to file forged bank documents, is linked to Southampton University very quickly by the research. Now, the Hacklew Advisory Company features on the very important company, the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, and here it is on the Satanic Temple research. And just to confirm, on page 40 of the incorporation document for that company, you have the Hacklewitt International Advisory Board. You also have Lloyds Bank. Of course, I acquired forged Lloyds Bank documents, and you have the very important Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP. Now, this company is so important because whichever area of research I come in from, whether it's the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, whether it's the mass murders of children in Jersey through the lead investigating police officers, whether you're coming in from Jeffrey Epstein, every area, Keir Starmer, politicians, you hit very quickly the Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP and some others on here, which means this company becomes very central. And this would explain why when I released the connection to this company and the threat of directed energy on the very same day, the 14th of May 2024, is when they unveiled the satanic portrait of the king. Thanks very much. Come back for the next part.